Good morning, Black people in cryptocurrency. We're getting started with the live stream in a few minutes. I'm going to give Eduardo, who's already in the group, a heads up. Hold on, I'm typing on my computer. Just a little housekeeping while he signals me when he's in the room. If you're new to the group, please check the file section and download the free guidebook. We created a guidebook for beginners to help them get started. Also check the pin post before you post. Read all the rules of the group. There should be no soliciting, no referral links, no, obvious marketing attempts. We realize that some of you here really want to network and get going. We're trying to create a separate platform for that. We don't want to hinder anything, but we don't want this to turn into a spam fest group. The original intent of this particular group was to get the information out, to let people know in a free manner how they can, if they were interested in investing, how they can actually invest in cryptocurrencies. The goal of this group was not to solicit for business, but we're going to have a spin-off group talking to a number of people who pitched me behind the scenes about some things that they wanted to get on board, and we're trying to work on the best way to actually do that so that this group does not become basically spam city, and then nobody knows what's going on. Every single day, the uptick of this group is at least 100 members a day, and that's probably not even within a 24-hour span period. So we realize that most people are joining knowing nothing. So we still want to be that root group to help people get onto the conversation. So Eduardo, I see you're watching. I'm waiting for you to make a request. You should be able to see a link. It may appear green and white. It says add to the conversation. Let me see if I can actually click on you and get something started. Let's see. 1 second. This always remains a challenge because depending on the device that you're using, some people see the icon and other people do not see the icon. There should be an icon that you can request to join. Let's see if I can find you. And say I sent you an invitation. Let's see if you can see that invitation and join in the correspondence. Let me check some of the other icons. 1 second. Are you able to see the icon? There should be an icon. It's usually the first one. Sometimes it's green and white. Let me try another icon. Edwardo, are you accessing by way of the Facebook page or by way of your mobile device? Your mobile device may be better. No one should be requesting to be added to the live stream except for Eduardo. I see someone else did try to do that. This is a specific interview slot for him. So only Eduardo should be asking. If not, we have another workaround. See if you can change your device, Eduardo, and see if you can see the icon. It's usually the very first one. And it usually appears, if you're not on your mobile phone, it should appear green and white. All right, we have another workaround. I'm going to actually call you by way of Messenger, and then I'll just flip the screen. 1 second. Let's do it that way. I'm going to call you now.
Hello?
Hey, how you doing? We kind of always have these technical glitches with Facebook's person-in-person kind of conversation. We've only had it work like with 2 interviews. In the last interview, depending on the device you're using, you either see the icon to join the conversation or you don't. So I was like, this is our backup that I just flip my screen and access it by way of the web. So it's fine. It's good to see you, although I've seen you before because you have started making videos of your own. But before we even get to that, I just want to say that you are probably the first Black person that I had come across in Bitcoin because of your Blacks in Bitcoin website. I was literally, it's literally a year ago, a little over a year ago, actually, that I had a client that was like, I don't know anything about Bitcoin, and I know you don't know either, but, do some research and see what you can find out, because there's this project that I want to work on, but I want a clear sense of what the heck is going on. So in my search and writing up of general stuff, I was also, because this was a Black client, I was also like, okay, let me just up to find people that are in the space. So I came across Blacks in Bitcoin. So if you could give us some insight, not only on your personal journey on how you first encountered cryptocurrency, but what can people get if they go to that particular website, and what was your kind of personal mindset involving creating that property?
Well, so as it turns out, one of my favorite shows is The Good Wife, and in 2012, early that year, they had an episode with Jason Biggs, the guy from American Pie, playing the hidden creator of Bitcoin. I thought it was a good episode. I thought they made it up. Like, I didn't think it was real, so I totally forgot about it. And then a year later, I'm working with Upworthy, and I find this video, like a 9-minute video with Max Kaiser, who's a bit of a hyperbole hype man, a little bit of a contrarian, but he's been on Bitcoin. He'd been on Bitcoin at that point for about a year and a half, maybe. And his hair was on fire, talking about how it's going to end all banks and how don't trust banks or anything, but use Bitcoin. And he's just talking a lot of stuff. And so, but I was in a place where I could receive it, so I watched it. I thought it was great. I wrote it up. Didn't get as many as much traffic as I'd like, but I started doing my own research. And then finally, 2 months later, so we're talking May of 2013, I bought my first few Bitcoin at $88 each. And it's been, a love affair ever since. In January 2014, I needed an outlet to talk about Bitcoin, and I asked people about it. I told people about it. I had given away Bitcoin during Christmas that year. Everyone thought I was nuts. Like, they didn't understand it. They didn't know what to do about it. Anytime you go into Reddit, which really was kind of like the birthplace of first Bitcoin communities, Reddit, like r/Bitcoin, it's a lot of the early adopters were largely, white libertarian males, and that's perfectly fine. But I didn't see a lot of diversity discussion, didn't see a lot of us, any of us really, in that space. So I just threw up the website, blacksinbitcoin.com, in January 2014, alongside the time I was playing professional poker. And I just really tried to get the word out, and no one really listened. So I've been on this corner since May 2013 by myself. So I'm really grateful to be part of the group. Thanks for letting me in. And sorry if I go through, every other day, talking about it, because I'm really excited to talk to people, our people especially, about Bitcoin. It's been a long time.
So what can people get if they go to the Blacks in Bitcoin? What are some things? What should they dig through, and some resources that you have on the site? I've been on the site, but I just want people to really, I keep checking in, and what should they get if they go to the site?
Well, first of all, thank you. I appreciate the traffic. And secondly, I have what I call the Bitcoin Starter Kit. A lot of people, especially now these days, are asking me, how can I get started with Bitcoin? What is it? How do we get started? So I refer them to blacksinbitcoin.com, and then to go to the Bitcoin Starter Kit. It's got a lot of like kind of really basics, like how do what is the little Bitcoin video? What is a Bitcoin? How do I set up an account? How do I secure my wallets? The real bottom line basics. So I definitely advocate that. I have links to the podcast. Like you mentioned, I just started vomiting up this podcast once a week. And hopefully I'll have you on my podcast sometime soon, talking about Bitcoin. And then also, a few examples of Bitcoining while black, and then, some Bitcoin businesses. It really was just a hobby site until recently. Still kind of is a hobby site. My full time is CinemaDraft, as you see, getting funding for that. But it's really just a place for people who are looking, for information on Bitcoin. Everyone is welcome. I just, look at Bitcoin from a black person's point of view because I'm black and I stay living Bitcoin.
We're going to get to CinemaDraft in a minute, but what is the climate like in Las Vegas in terms of its Bitcoin's receptors of cryptocurrency? You see any mainstreaming, or is there resistance? What's the climate like?
So early on, and by early I mean like maybe 2.5 years ago, there was some appetite for Bitcoin. People were like interested. There were some businesses that were accepting Bitcoin, but it still was kind of on the low. It's not like, I don't know. I mean, it's not like, some other places. The tech scene in Vegas is still somewhat on the come up. Like there is a burgeoning tech scene thanks to Tony Hsieh's downtown project, where he's funneled in about $250 million, to help revitalize the downtown core. But people didn't really get it because I went home for about 7 months in 2014, 2015, came back for a startup tech job. And at that point, we're talking June of 2015, Bitcoin was down to $250. Like I bought it at 88, shot up to almost 1,200, went back down to, just kind of stagnated for about a year or so, around 250. And no one really heard of it. So I gave out I think $3 to everyone in the office in Bitcoin at the time, and they just kind of looked at me like, what is this magic internet money? It's kind of laughed at me. Well, now they're $3 worth, well over $100 something, and everyone in that office is like pinging me, getting more involved with Bitcoin. So there's some appetite, but it's still kind of like late coming in the space. So I can't say that. I mean, I can't say that Las Vegas is pro Bitcoin or anti Bitcoin. I think if anything, they're more pro because we do have a casino that's been accepting Bitcoin for over 1.5 years now.
Which one is that?
That's the D, the one that used to be owned. They used to be called Fitzgerald's, which is owned by the brothers. Okay. They sold it to someone from Detroit. They totally remade it, and I believe they had one of the first Bitcoin ATMs in the city, and they also were accepting, I think, Bitcoin for possibly for payment for rooms and stuff. Okay. There's no way they would let it happen like, gambling style right now because the regulatory commission is really strong in here for gambling. And that'd take a lot of hoops and steps. But the D was interesting. And I think there's even a picture maybe somewhere on my site or my Instagram a while back where, you could see, them advertising Bitcoin facing Fremont Street. And it's funny because, no one really pays any mind. There are a lot of lights in Vegas. No one really knows. But I noticed. I took some pictures. I'm like, oh, that's cool. We're taking Bitcoin.
And before we move on, I just want to put out there that I did answer. I did send a quick question for you to answer in case you missed that in your Bitcoin distribution gift list.
No, but did you listen to the episode last week? No, I answered it. I sent you 5,000 Bitcoin.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, I got to catch up. I'm behind. Again, before we get to CinemaDraft, because I know you want to talk about that baby, but what is your advice you give people? There's a kind of a controversy going on in the group, and I'm not really clear on the why. Well, I kind of know what the controversy is, but what kind of recommendation do you get to people? Is it now okay for people to leave their funds on an exchange? Or, has the climate changed? The original pitch was that, always create your own wallet first and then use the exchanges, only leave on exchange what you will, especially as a result of Mt. Gox. But are exchanges, in your view, a little bit safer? Is it okay for people to leave their stuff on Coinbase or any other exchange? What's your take on that in terms of, how things have progressed with security?
Well, the ultimate security is always going to be having your own wallet, your paper wallet, your hardware wallet. I actually just bought a safe I came in Sunday because I plan on, hoping Santa for Christmas gets me a Ledger wallet. Hearing this, Mom? Give me that Ledger Nano. But yeah, so I've always been about both. I actually was super duper paranoid early on as far as security. Like I think I did like a paper wallet. What was it? Bitwallet.org or something, bitaddress.org. I did one of those. I didn't screenshot. I took a physical picture of my seed, printed it out from the camera, not from like the site. Made a few copies, stuck in safe deposit boxes, hid in other places, put in a little plastic bag, all sorts of stuff. Because that's really one of the few ultimate ways to be secure. But because you do have something like Coinbase, which over the years, and mind you, I got started before Coinbase existed. I think they came about a couple months after I got my first Bitcoin. I had to go through I actually went through Mt. Gox. And also, I think I tried Bitstamp once. It was really difficult to get Bitcoin back in early 2013. But anyways, now that Coinbase is on the scene, they're highly regulated and FDIC insured up to $250,000, almost like a real bank. I mean, you could say that probably provides some security. I don't know about you, but I plan on holding a lot more than $250,000 someday. So I'll always have like my little paper wallet and my Santa brought Ledger Nano this season. But I mean, I think for beginners, I'm always stressing for beginners, people who just want to get involved, who just want to get started. Me personally, I think Coinbase is fine. Only because there are so many regulations in place, which of course, as we saw, didn't mean a damn thing when the banks went under, or when they were gambling with, people's pensions and stuff. But for now, just get started. I think the easiest way to get somebody into the game is through Coinbase. And if they really want to be secure and learn more, you can, teach them, instruct them how to create more secure wallets.
Okay, so how did you move from the hobby site Blacks in Bitcoin to actually going into CinemaDraft? But explain what CinemaDraft is and how that transition transpired. Sure.
CinemaDraft is fantasy game style, gaming for the movie. So, basically it's like the DraftKings of Hollywood, but instead of picking athletes from teams, like you would on a fantasy team, you're picking actors from movies that are on current release. And the better the movies do, the better you do. And it's a really fun game, salary cap structure, so it'll be very familiar to people who already play daily fantasy sports. We were in beta for almost a year. We were giving out free prizes, free games, free money in the games to our players. Paid out over $12,000 in prizes. One guy earned $2,200 per game every week. Really fun game. And right now we're in fundraise mode, which has gotten even more invested in cryptocurrency, because as you know, ICOs, initial offerings, are a real avenue for funding businesses, a legitimate business. Well, some legitimate, some not so legitimate. So I've used this opportunity while we've paused the beta to get even more into crypto, to develop new ways to raise funds, and also look deeper at the possibility of raising an ICO to use on our site and possibly others.
Okay, so you're not currently having an ICO, but you're fundraising by what means?
No, I mean just cryptocurrency investing, like my own private money, rolling that up. I've got a couple investment platforms I'm into, which are working really well for me. Just studying the market, buying in on coins I believe in. I have a coin portfolio right now that I'm currently invested in 10 different coins, and it's up like 35% in 2 weeks. I mean, that's a great start. I mean, and nowhere else can you see those type of gains or returns but cryptocurrency. And then also I do have an advisor for CinemaDraft. He actually is on the board of a couple ICOs, and one of them is like I think an ICO VC type fund or something, where they're like a venture capital fund that's creating their own ICO to invest in ICOs.
Wow.
Inception level.
Wow. So the beta is down. Is there any way that people can demo or is there a YouTube video they should look at to get a kind of glimpse behind the scenes?
Sure, yeah. Go to cinemadraft.co.
Repeat.
cinemadraft.co, like on my chest, .co. And there's a lot of information on there. You can find out about me and the team. You can see videos of it in action. What else? You can't really demo the game right now. We hope to have it up and running in a month or so. We might even have it opening up overseas first, build traction there, bring it back to the States. But our players, we're small and passionate, but we missed the game, we missed the movies. And I was a more informed movie goer because I knew every week what was coming out, and I saw more movies. So it's a really fun game, and we hope everybody checks it out and comes back. I'll definitely let you guys know one time in the group when we're back up and running.
All right. Anybody who has any questions in the list, you should be shooting those questions about now. Give us also. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So where are you located? How did you? And so you say the first time you got involved in Bitcoin was through a client?
Yeah. I was. I'm gonna flip the camera back. I was. One of the other admins in the group Robert Ponce, I just call him Bob. I want to call him Bob so badly because, I know he's all formal on Facebook. But Bob and I actually came out of the New York .com world. And Bob had linked me up with someone else. And it's like, look, I need to explain to this person what Bitcoin is about. And I know you're a good writer. And first he asked me if I heard it, and I was like, yeah, I heard of it. I mean, I thought it was some gaming thing. I wasn't really paying attention to it. So he was like, look, let me send you some links. Read this, watch this. And then I took off. So like a year ago, in my research and figuring out how can my background is journalism. So it was kind of like, how can I put this in plain layman's terms for this client to have kind of the basics of how it works, why people are attracted to it, what they're doing, and a possible resolution for that client's issue. So I created the document. As a matter of fact, the root of the free guidebook that's in our group is really taking chunks from what that original, it's missing some elements that were specific to that client, but the root of what was there was the genesis. I didn't really have to draft anything up. I've just been adding to it. So that's kind of how, but it took me a year. It took me until September 4th, that weekend or whatever, before the 4th, is when I took my son and we went to a Bitcoin ATM and we did our first Litecoin actually purchase. I gave him an account. He had a wallet. I had a wallet. Gave him some money. He put stuff in his wallet. I put stuff in my wallet, and we documented it with a photograph. And then that Monday, I think was the 4th, was when I started the group, and I had the picture up and said, my concern was that how many people were soliciting me for like MLM type entry into the field was troublesome to me, because I would go back to them and say, well, why would I need to pay you $100 a month if I could just buy direct, and there's different ways. And I would mention stuff like local Bitcoins, and they'd be like, huh, what? They'd still try to corral me into whatever network they were in. And I found that far more disturbing than anything else, that how people, their first introduction was to these MLMs as the starting point. So that kind of the information was to get out that there are multiple ways. You want to do that? Fine, you can do that. But there's ways that you can buy direct, buy at your own pace, buy the amount that you want to buy. And the confusion that people thought that you had to buy a whole Bitcoin right off the bat. All kinds of different things like that we kind of wanted to dispel with the group. And then it was just a matter of, I'm an admin of other groups as well. And so kind of, if you end up Googling my name, you'll find a lot more of me writing about Kemet and Kush than anything else. So I had two of the men's from one of those groups I had seen previously posting on their own walls about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. So they became admin, and then Bob, who had introduced me to the other person, became an admin. So the four of us had, different strengths. Now Bob's background is really, he had a Silicon Alley station, which he was just doing interviews in the early .com days. So he's the one that was like, we need a live stream. And I'm more of a print journalist. I was like, I'm really not, don't want to do it. People want to watch things in 2 minutes and get it and go on, or, 15 minutes or whatever, and get going with their lives and stuff like that. So that's just really him pushing us to do more than just text-based correspondence with people, really. And then the other thing was documentation. That was a big issue as well. Having seen the .com genesis and been a part of that and see people like Alan Emtage not known, even though he created Archie, the first search engine, and all the search engines who were ever built went to him to figure out how to do it. Or to see people who are, I remember there was a television commercial not long ago in which, it was a couple of years ago, in which they had, like, quote unquote, the innovators. I don't know if it was Apple Computer. I don't even remember the product, but they had innovators of technology, and nearly everybody was 100% white. And I'm saying, they could have had John Henry Thompson. I mean, we wouldn't be talking right now. He's the guy that created Lingo, that made computerized video possible. But you want to ignore that he didn't exist. You want to ignore that Alan Emtage didn't exist. You want to ignore that we have .com names versus IP addresses, but you don't want to talk about Emmett McHenry. So we've seen this pattern before. So a big core of this particular group is to really, the initial round of interviews, like you were a no-brainer, and some other people we have coming down the pipe are no-brainers. Hopefully Sinclair Skinner, who's also in the group, we'll get him to talk about Bitmari and other people. But really to document that while we are not in this space in heavy numbers, we are critically in this space and innovating in this space and leading companies in this space. And so, it's kind of why I blew up on the CME, kind of like, this marketing by the mainstream media, the first futures exchange, blah, blah, blah. But, we already, those of us who are some of the men's, we already knew about Arthur Hayes and BitMEX in China, and we know he's being copied, but here's a black man who worked in the traditional finance industry, got laid off or whatever the situation with JP Morgan. He still came out of Wharton, and he says, I have this idea that I think will work. I'm going to call back some college or some contacts I have that are more readily in the web thing, but I know the finance thing. I know how that's supposed to work. Right? And he launched the first futures exchange that is exploding and has been written about, and not specifically talked about by us, but written about by, I don't know if it's Cointelegraph or some of the ones that are long-standing true cryptocurrency news outlets have written about him and how, his company is really on a tear with this futures thing. But, I don't find fault in the Chicago Mercantile Exchange or anyone else doing this. I do find fault when, as a media person, if he were Vitalik Buterin, they would put him up as the poster child only because he's white. But when we do something innovative, they like to ignore and act like we don't even exist, because then they'll make CME, oh, well, they did this, they did that. So this is kind of, so then you build, because we saw it happen with the .com, you build this invisible, quote unquote, digital divide, and you start ingraining people with, and we know we're behind in coming into the space, but you start ingraining people with, this is a singular invention of a specific group or specific two groups, when all along from the beginning, like you said yourself, you were there, a part of the Reddit discussions. So that means that a black person was there.
It's funny you mentioned that type of dynamic, because when I first announced, blacksandbitcoin.com, I went on Reddit, I hadn't asked me anything, it didn't go very well or last very long. And one of the first things that people mentioned, once again, the early adopters, white libertarian males, they were like, why is it blacks and Bitcoin? Why are you trying to divide it? Why are you trying to, it made almost all about them. Like, they didn't get the message that, look, it's for everybody. I'm just taking a specific, area that I'm concentrating on to help bring education to this type of traditionally underserved communities. Not excluding anybody, but I just want to let y'all know that we're here and we're interested in wanting to be part of the discussion. And it's documented on my site. I think it's one of the top posts or whatever on the left-hand side, and it says, if you heard this all the time, it would annoy you too. It's basically my response to, why blacks in Bitcoin? Because it's almost like they're trying to shut down any kind of contribution that we have that even has anything to do with, acknowledging the fact of race. Silicon Valley likes to posit itself as this, meritocracy. We all know it's more like a brotocracy, and that's how they kind of keep us from being recognized widely in and outside the community is by walling off into this myth of meritocracy and trying to make everything so culturally agnostic, when really what you bring from your different communities can add significantly not only to the flavor of the discussion. And I learned a lot just listening to you these last 5 minutes about the contributions you have made in tech that I didn't really know, and Bitcoin. So yeah, I think it's very important that we do have communities, general communities, niche communities, whatever, that focus on communities like our own, where we can help prop each other up, educate ourselves, and also promote the stuff we are doing inside and outside of cryptocurrency. Yeah,
and I always feel that it's important that people be a part of many different groups. I mean, I key in all the time to some of the Korean, and these are Korean Americans, so some of the Korean video bloggers or whatever, and they're talking about their properties. I think what's really strange is when you talk about Black people, and in some effects, it affects the Latino and Native American as well. We're not supposed to have these quote unquote ethnic niches, but someone who is Korean American can talk about, because Korea is a country. But as soon as you say Black, because you kind of disconnected us from, whatever our quote unquote national or ethnic origins are, we're not supposed to talk about what we're doing. But if we don't talk about it, excuse me, having a cough. If we don't talk about it, it doesn't get covered at all. So, and that's kind of what the clamor was. And we've been criticized too within the group. We had some people quote unquote leave because we do have white people in the group. I'm like, I'm sure, I'm like, what kind of subversive thing? And the thing is, I'm in some Black only groups. Okay. It's kind of the same stuff that you can get in other groups. It really isn't all that difficult. So I don't care that, if you white people want to come in, as long as they're not disruptive. We've got groups on Kemet, and there's white people in all of those groups. Maybe 3 or 4 of them are talking, just like most Black people don't talk in this group. Sometimes they're listening and lurking, but they can value too by learning about CinemaDraft, or by learning about some of the other people that we've had, Zay Gatsby or Tim Akimbo in Nigeria. I mean, so why would I so narrowly cast? This is the reason why this video and some of the other ones, our interviews, we also post outside of the group as well, because it does not serve your interest only to have African Americans only use CinemaDraft. I mean, this is for everyone, but we want to make sure people know who the brain trust is behind CinemaDraft. So that's kind of like the objective, is to really get our people thinking about what you can do, because other people are already doing, but also to really, have a forum where people feel comfortable to talk about cryptocurrency and what your own community is doing, and exclusively that, because there's a market for highlighting what's going on in our community. That doesn't mean you ignore everything else. It doesn't mean you don't belong to other groups. I'm in 6 or 7 other groups. I'm usually, not only I'm the minority in terms of people of color, I'm the minority woman. So, but you got to get in there. You got to get in there to ask the questions. That's what you're learning at.
Absolutely, and also modeling matters. Seeing other people doing what it is that you want to do definitely has an impact. And it's just I think it's important that we have groups like this, showing Black faith in the space, because it'll help inspire others. Like I back to my hobby site over the last few months, because I kept getting asked questions about Bitcoin, interviews, things like that. And I was really pleasantly surprised to see, some brothers like Trevon James, who commercial because of his association with an MLM, but very entertaining, very engaged, very much about crypto, talking about, like trading analysis and some other, marketers you're looking at when you're investing in cryptocurrency. So just seeing the space with more people like me definitely makes me feel better about, I'm not sure it's like really packed. I mean, I just really love Bitcoin, but being out here for this long, about Bitcoin. It definitely makes me feel better knowing that more people like you and others are in the space, loving cryptocurrency. And a real quick aside, I did get a really nice email after that aborted AMA on Reddit back in 2014 from Andreas.
Oh yeah.
He sent me an email. He's like, yeah, I get what you're doing. I like it. Fine. Let me know any way I can help. And I wrote him back like, thanks. I appreciate that. And then 2 weeks later, he got hired by the Bitcoin Foundation. I've never heard from him since. But Andreas, if you see this, I understand you've been on the hustle. Congratulations for your $1 million worth of Bitcoin people donated, all that good stuff. Maybe we'll cross paths again.
Exactly. So I
appreciate your support. And it shows that it's not exclusionary. It's just we're trying to focus on our community and get everybody in this as soon as we can. Mostly because, this is like my tagline almost. We have, as people and the community, we have a once in a generation opportunity to create generational wealth. And I just want to make sure that everybody, Black and otherwise, get on it. I'm telling everybody about this.
Exactly. How frequently do you webcast, so people get an idea of when to tune into your YouTube channel?
Sure. So I do like a Google Plus Hangout Live, and I script for audio and send it to a podcast. I'm trying to get on a schedule of once a week on Wednesdays. I am so far guest free, although I believe my first guest this week will be my mother, which should be interesting.
Wow.
She also is a hodler in 2013. And then yesterday she was like, here, go buy some more crypto. Go buy some Litecoin. Go buy some Bitcoin. So, and also, hopefully we'll have some more guests from people I've encountered along my travels. Until they confirm, I won't confirm anything, but she's some really interesting guests from some outlets that we've heard of. And I'm just looking forward to getting an outlet to talk about Bitcoin on a semi-regular basis, not just like inside the group, but also to potentially a larger audience as well. Okay.
Any parting words of advice?
Well, I am not a financial advisor. Some people's tolerance for risk may be higher than others. I am also by training a professional poker player, so my limit of risk is fairly high. But basically, like with most investments, as they say, don't invest more than you're willing to lose, et cetera, et cetera. I believe in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, partially as a medium early adopter, but also as just an opportunity to take control of your finance. And I mean, the reason why Bitcoin really spoke to me was that, like, when the Great Recession hit and my business, lost its funding, lost my house, lost my car, I moved back to Seattle with my mom in my high school room. I read like half a dozen books on the economy, Too Big to Fail, The Big Short, all those books, trying to figure out like what would happen. So that when Bitcoin actually did come about, and I found out about it a few years later, it made sense to me. It made sense because I knew how rigged the game was for the financial elite. And so here we have, like I said, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to create generational wealth where there are no barriers to entry. There's nothing that's holding us back except for information. So I just try to be as helpful as I can in and out of the group. Pretty much anybody who emails me or contacts me, I try to just be helpful. I mean, and it's interesting, as the space has exploded in the past year, you see a lot of people kind of setting themselves up as experts or which is fine. I mean, there are some general experts, and you see some people who are definitely profiting off this, which is fine. But my whole thing is, I just want to make sure that we have the education, the information. If it ever gets to a point where I need to charge for my time, I will, but probably in the least amount of way I can do so, because I just want to make sure that we all have this information. And I want to see us all rise up with this great technological opportunity.
Yeah, that's how this group was set up. We try to teach people how to teach themselves, basically. And it's very rare. I slipped the other day when somebody said they like Power Legend, and I was like, yeah, I like them too. And I don't want people to like things because I like it. I want them to use, we have like a 10-point metric rubric within our guidebook, which is free in the file section. And all those, we tell where the metrics come from. So it's not like it's coming out of our head. We watched a number of analyst videos and we took 3 from here and 4 from here and threw in a couple of our own. But basically, if you're looking at a property, you should be going through these questions in your head, because what is passionate for you may not be passionate for me. So at the end of the day, you're going through the rubric and hopefully you're coming away with more yeses than nos, but then your gut or your inner feeling may still drive that decision. And I might say no, and you may say yes. We have admins, of the 4 admins, we don't agree on what is valued and what's not. But ultimately, it's your judgment and your pick. We're not trying to advise you and push you in any type of direction one way or another. It's, but we hopefully will give you the tools that you can use, that you can make a decision for yourself on what's good and what's not. Eduardo, I really thank you for your time. I'm definitely going to be tuning back into some of your videos. Keep posting to the group. Keep commenting. You kind of like going on a tear. I see you every 5 seconds and coming in and talking, and that's what we like, the kind of engagement. And definitely keep us abreast of what's going on with CinemaDraft.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Are we going to answer your questions, or are we?
Does anybody have any questions? Because usually I see them and they shoot up, and I correspond, but I have not seen any. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go switch over to the actual Facebook for a second and see if I can see anything, because I haven't on my phone. I have not seen anything. Let me just scroll.
Oh, and also generally, I'm sure I'm fairly easy to contact, but if people have legitimate questions they'd like me to answer on the air on our podcast next week, feel free to email me at blacksinbitcoin@gmail.com, and I will give out $5 to BTC in the top 3 questions. As Deidra can attest, it's sitting in your Coinbase, Deidra.
All right,
evil Coinbase.
Repeat that pros again, because I think I flipped the screen by accident. Go ahead. You're going to offer people.
You can send me your questions that I can read on air for our next podcast at blacksinbitcoin.com. You can reach me at blacksinbitcoin@gmail.com, and the top 3 questions I will answer on the pod and give out $5 worth of BTC through my Coinbase account.
All right. Well, I don't see any questions popping up. I'm going to click around, and anybody have anything they want to add? Let me just check real quick. Hit the comments button. I want to hit the finish button by accident. Hold on. Nope.
We're good?
Not yet. We're good. Thank you for your time, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And I look forward to hopefully adding value to the group and getting an outlet for all my crypto release.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.